What up, world? I go by the name of Jabari, and it's Monday, so you know what it is. The Words with Friends podcast is back. Stay ready so you don't have to get ready. And if you guys know, if you don't know, you should know by now, you can donate to the podcast. You can go on patreon.com. If you're getting value from the podcast, if you're enjoying these conversations with some of my creative friends, support the podcast, guys, all right? Support it with a tip. You can support it for as little as $1 per podcast. I do 4 a month, so that's only $4 a month, and you don't even have to give that. You can just give $1, and that can continue. That can ensure that we can continue it, that we can keep it going, and that I can continue bringing these to you guys on Monday. And thank you so much for those that have already supported. And if you're just listening, and if you're just commenting on SoundCloud, rating in iTunes, you already know I love that, and you know that stuff means the world to me. But if you want to take it a step further, go to patreon.com/Jabari and support the podcast. All right, with that being said, it's Monday, and I'm with my man, Phillip Annand. What's good, man?
Yo.
How's it going?
I'm lovely, man. I'm lovely. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's drizzling right now, but it's
That's illegal in LA. That's not supposed to be happening.
Yeah, it was like literally when I was on the way to your crib, it's just like sunshine in my neighborhood. And then when I get over here, it's like one cloud.
Get into the hills, no more. Yeah.
It's just like one
hanging out
big
up
rain
here.
cloud, man. But how are you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Dodging the rain. Just got back into town from a bunch of travel in the past 2 months.
Yeah.
But good, man. Loving and enjoying as always.
Now, where were you traveling into?
I just got back from Miami.
Okay.
We were shooting Mario Chalmers for the last installment of a project we were doing for the NBA in Sprint.
Okay.
New York before that, New Orleans before that, Portland before that. Just
all NBA Sprint stuff?
Nah, different stuff. Some Nike, some Madbury Club, some NBA Sprint, all kind of mixed in.
Nice.
Yeah.
Man, there's so much history that we got to run through, man. Let's talk about. I don't even remember when I first met you, man. But while I ponder that, let's get you to explain to the people what it is that you do.
Okay. At this exact moment right now, I'm still trying to avoid having what anyone else would call a real job.
Yes.
Just trying to continue doing work that I would do for free. If given the same opportunity. So I run Madbury Club, which is a collective and group of my friends, some from college, some from right after college, and together we produce content and do some marketing and creative strategy for some folks, Nike, Footaction, Native Shoes, amongst a bunch of others.
Mm-hmm.
I also work with Flatbush Zombies in a spiritual advisor role.
That's kind of fancy for a manager.
Yeah, I'm trying to dodge and shed my manager role in some way. But those are my brothers. Still work with them, and and I get into a bunch of other trouble on the side still as well. But that's the main gigs these days.
Got it. Okay, so while I was thinking about where we met, man, it was definitely sometime in the streets of New York City.
Yeah.
And we probably, as a bunch of creatives nowadays, we probably met online first.
Right. A bunch of mutual friends, similar fields of work. Yeah.
All of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just running around the city, events, seeing each other around. But one thing, man, always I've respected is just the work and the independence and the aesthetic that you have, man. It's very, very... It's just held to a high standard, man, and I appreciate that when I see that from my peers, man. But how did you grow up, man? Because a lot of some of the things that I've seen in terms of interviews with you and stuff like that, I've seen you talk about you growing up in nature and like doing things with your hands and a lot of stuff that was like sort of not in the digital realm. Right.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I think that like narrative got like super attached to me.
Yeah.
Like, whether or not it's like the most true representation of where I grew. I mean, I grew up in the suburbs. I was born in Princeton, New Jersey. Grew up in Lawrenceville, New Jersey, right next door.
Gotcha.
But my dad was like an Eagle Scout, and my mom immigrated to this country from Haiti, but was also like a Girl Scout and did a bunch of stuff. So it was just natural when I grew up that we were constantly on camping trips. And then my parents just didn't let us play inside. Like there was no option to watch TV and play video games and sort of like do all these things, which is why, you know, fast forward now, like people kind of bug out when they're like, oh man, like you used to build tree houses and build go-karts and camp all the time. And it's like, oh, nah, I just didn't really have a choice. Like, you know, we didn't have Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis. Like, it was like, yo, you're going to be outside until the lights go off, and that's really the only option.
Yeah.
So that's where that whole side of things came. But yeah, no, I mean, I grew up camping. I grew up going to those crazy summer camps, like where you're away for a month.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, that stuff kind of naturally found a way to manifest itself back into the work as I got older.
Nice, man. I think, you know, there's a lot of things that I grew up doing as well, man, that was like not especially from where I bounced around a lot, so all over New York,
right,
in New Jersey for a minute. I actually went to elementary school in Summit for a little bit.
Yeah.
But, you know, I was like skiing and doing things like that a lot of my relatives and family that was in the city of New York, they were not doing or not exposed to.
Okay.
And so like that it didn't necessarily like stick with me in terms of it sort of influencing my work by any means, or maybe it did, but like what it did was just open my eyes to other things, you know what I'm saying?
Totally.
And just gave me a greater perspective on life rather than, you know, some other people that I encountered along my journey that maybe have just been like stuck to their neighborhood or their house or the confines of their home, stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I think it's mainly those things give you just the ability to think on a larger scale, right? Like to realize that there's other things out there and that there's a little bit further. I remember my cousins who grew up, 15 minutes away from me, but just in a totally different situation in Trenton. And like, so when we go on a camping trip or we go 6 hours to upstate New York, like it was just blowing their minds. Yeah. And I remember the first time I realized how foreign it was for them and how immediately comfortable it was for me because of just the difference in how we were raised. And so I agree. I mean, where you're cultivated and raised has a huge part to play.
Yeah,
and how you look at things, the lens through which you look at everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, what do you think about? Do you have any like younger siblings now, or because? Do you think that they're being raised differently than you are? Are they being raised like a little bit too much with the digital experience?
Yeah. Now I have 3 younger brothers. 2 of them are way younger, like 10 years younger.
Yeah.
And me and my younger brother, who's a year and a half younger than me. So there's like 2 generations of us, right? So we have the 2 super young ones and the 2 older ones. Yeah. And we always look at them and we're like, yo, you guys have no idea. Like it's hilarious. Like they still, my parents still held them to a sort of different standard. Like they didn't get their cell phones till super late, like till they were in high school and everything. Their friends had them early. But like even me and my brother, we look at it and we're like, oh man, you guys have no idea. Like you grew up with the video games, you grew up with the internet. It's just so different. Like the fact that they grew up with older brothers who had laptops and phones and tablets is like, it's just a completely different world. You can't fathom that. If you grow up with the internet and you immediately know how to turn on a computer, pull up a browser, and go play games, you're just a whole different kid than like a kid when you're 7 years old. Like, okay, you want to play something, like your only option is to pick up the ball, go out the back door, and go play.
Yeah, man, it's wild, man. And I think that there's elements of it that are incredible and amazing, but there's also some. I can look at my little sister. I have 4 little sisters, and my youngest one is now about to turn 16. Yeah, and the life that she lived, it's weird because it's like, maybe because I'm so connected to the internet, it's almost like I'm very in tune with her and I get her a lot. Right. But at the same time, there's certain things that I am like, you really have to understand, girl, that you have to work for things. Like things don't just come to you. Right. It's your life is not like a Chrome browser. Like you really do have to work. You can't just type it in and it's gonna come here. Right. In terms of life.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I mean, and on the same token, I'm interested and fascinated to see what someone like what my youngest brother is very similar to me. I look at him and like, oh man, this reminds me of myself, right? Yeah. And it's like, but what's going to happen differently with him, with all these options, with the whole internet at his fingertips? You know what I mean? Yeah. Having grown up and with the ability to see and access those resources instantly. how is he gonna approach things differently than how I would have approached things, you know? So yeah, I definitely think there's some cons to it. I definitely think it can manifest in laziness, but yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see, man. I think they're stepping into a whole different world.
Yeah, it's a whole nother beast, man.
Yeah.
I volunteer with kids, and every Monday I'm with like a group of kids, and it's crazy, man. Because some of the stuff is like, what are you saying, or what are you talking about? But some of the stuff is so promising that they're talking about. So it really is true, man. When they say it's like the youth is the future, you know, it's up to them. So anyway, man. But when did you sort of start, I guess, in this pursuit of not just being creative, but sharing your creativity online? You know what I mean? Because I think that's everybody sort of has this thing in common, is when we all can, to be a creative entrepreneur, right? You have to share your work, and immediately when you're sharing your work, that's like the most scariest part. When you're first out there, either where you're uploading stuff, you're writing stuff, you're creating something, and then you're putting it out there. It's like you're at your most vulnerable, but you're also like, that's kind of like the most exciting time. So when was that for you? Was it while you were in school?
That's a good question. I mean, but I think on some level I've been sharing anything I ever made for as long as I can remember. I was never sheltered. I was never shy. I was never the one to make something and be, I don't really want you to look at it. Like if I drew something and I was in 4th grade, I was going to draw it big as fuck on the chalkboard so that everyone could see it. And it was like, the girls were going to be like, oh, like draw my name. You know what I mean? I enjoyed that, like having other people see and interact with anything I made. Nice. So, I mean, whether it was like drawing on T-shirts for kids in high school, or as it evolved and it became other things online, I think I was always like fairly comfortable with the forward-facing aspect of it. Okay. But I guess I had a shitty like Blogspot blog. That was probably the first like real manifestation of anything I was doing online that was like published with any sort of regularity. Okay. So that was like, dude, like Loch Ness Productions, that Blogspot or something like that, right?
What was on there?
It was just like pictures of sneakers and drawings and like style. It was like pictures of like this fly old Chinese grandmother on a beach that I saw. Like it was random. You know what I mean? It was all over the place. It was definitely heavily influenced by like whoever else was blogging at that time. Like Johnny Cupcakes of the world and like all like those sort of things, and I was like super stoked on like Peg Leg NYC and like some of these brands. So it was just super random, like pulled in, and like you look back at it now and you're like, man, like what the hell are you doing? But at the same time, you're a kid, you're like 15-year-old kid, like a high schooler. So it was like pictures of my friends in high school.
Nice. Yeah. So when did you? I mean, this is how I remember how I was introduced to you was. It was a Wart tour. Yeah. It was just like, seeing these clothes coming from like this college kid, and I would try to cop something that would be gone, and I'm like, damn, like what is this? You know what I mean? Like, who is this kid? And yeah, man, talk a little bit about a Wart tour and what that was, and where it sort of took you.
Yeah, I mean, a Wart tour was, before it was a Wart tour, it was Loch Ness, which was just like I was like just like fascinated with the Loch Ness monster, like the actual mythical beast in Scotland. And I was like, so whenever I had to choose a username online, I would always choose that. Okay. So then naturally, when I made the first screen printed shirts I ever did, that was just the name I put on it. It said like Loch Ness, and it said the Feng Shui, like misspelled SHWAY. So like, it was just literally like the most random shirt, like a cool design. I drew up in English class. Yeah. And I printed up 100 of them and sold out all of them in like maybe 2 days in school. Like sold most of them the first day in lunch, walked home with a bunch of money. And I was like, wow, like I anticipated I would get rid of all of them, but I didn't anticipate the reaction to be like that. Yeah. And while I sold out all of them in high school, I also put them online. And the response online on like the forums I was on, Hypebeast and a couple other sneaker forums was good. People wanted to buy the shirts, so I was like, all right, that was like a test run really. So Wart Tour, the first 4 Wart Tour shirts I did was really just a slightly more cohesive effort and attempt to like make a brand, right? And like I had like all these lofty goals. Like you go back and look at those old sites, there's like these huge about pages and like these grandiose dreams of what the brand's going to become. But it was pretty simple. Like 4 T-shirts. I had just found like a Tribe Called Quest record in my grandmother's attic.
Wow.
That was my aunt's from high school, and like that's why I chose the name of Wart Tour. I was stoked on it, and yeah, man, I did those first 4 shirts and like picked up like 3 retailers, sold a bunch of them online, and then that old shitty blog I was doing, Loch Ness Productions, basically became the Wart Tour blog.
Okay.
Which became a much more like, just, we were talking about regularity before. It was just regular, which is why I killed it. Every day it was like, it was on, and I was like, yo, I'm a kid, like here's the designs, like this is what I'm drawing, this is the brand. And a lot of people just gravitated towards it, especially a lot of younger kids and people our age. And it was like right at that like streetwear boom, right before everyone had a line and right before it went crazy. So it was like, it was unique to see someone younger doing it. Whereas now, like if you were to start and do that same thing, like, you know, you can be another fish in like a huge pond.
Everybody can do it. It's,
right.
and I mean, it's kind of cool because it's like the barrier to entry is so low that there's some creative stuff that can really break through and pierce through, and like you see some kids doing some crazy stuff now. Yeah. But at the same time, it's like everybody's doing it, so you see a lot of shitty stuff.
Oh, I love it, dude. It cracks me up because like I keep a very like loose eye to the side on it and watch what people are doing. Yeah. Because I've been a fan of the idea of everything about starting in manufacturing and producing your own line from the beginning. Like you have a Durkle sweater on. I remember when those guys started. I remember every collection of it. I've been watching all of it since the beginning. So I watch it now to see what kids are doing, and it's like, man, like 95% of it is like, yo, this is just terrible. Like this is so bad. Like, not only is it unoriginal, like not only are you just completely like copying someone else's template, like it just looks bad. And this is with me being like having respect, because I remember when I was a kid, like I'm not like, you shouldn't look back at something you did 4 years ago and be like, oh man, I killed it. Like hopefully you've grown from that point. Right? So like I look back, I look back on what I did. I'm like, oh, it's terrible. I'll never wear that. But like it was like cool for what you did it. The mindset you were in is like, it's good you did it. But I agree, man. Like it's so rampant right now, and it's so easy to call yourself a designer or a creative director and just throw it on your Instagram and then like print up 2 shirts and like you're good to go. And then this is what cracks me the most. You layer like Kanye's current rants, and like, so if you put like Kanye as like one of your like cultural icons that people are following right now, or like Virgil and these guys that people are stoked on what they're doing, like the message they're preaching is that like, yo, new rules, you can't be wrong, like fuck the establishment, like go do it right, which is like, in essence, that's a beautiful thing to tell someone. But if you're telling that to someone who has like very little like ability or like design sensibility or references to like check their work, you're just gonna encourage like a lot of bad shit to enter the universe, which is like what I think is happening right now. It's just kind of funny to watch.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's crazy what sort of influence those guys have, though, man. You know, what do you think about, like, what's your take on that influence? Because it's like when I see somebody like Kanye, you know, like I said, saying this, and it's like I completely get it and I get the message, but I don't. It's like, I mean, and I guess it's up for interpretation to how you take that information and do whatever you want with it. Right. But like, it's almost like, you know, it's like you see so much just like complete copying. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, even if you want to go to like from a fashion sense, right? If you want to talk about like, you know, I was talking to Will from Durkle about this. It's like Hood by Air, for instance. You know, it's like those guys, when they made the clothes, nothing was really looking like that. You know what I mean? But like now, everything looks like that. It's like, you know, like the blocks or like the huge letters or just like, you know, stuff on like the ass part of the back of your shirt. It's like, it's these guys are telling you to like be original, but when you go and listen to what these guys do, it's like you just use them as the point of reference and it just becomes a bite completely.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it was a shocking lack of originality in like in just about in like 90% of what's going on. I mean, if you see another line that's like all black and white with like Gothic letters and block prints on a long sleeve T-shirt. It's just like, yo, I literally, like, you line up 7 of those shirts and I can't tell you which brand is which. Like, you all might as well be the same person. So I mean, I guess on some level, like imitation, that doesn't leave. It doesn't go away. Like that nothing changed. I mean, if you went back and looked at what those early streetwear brands were doing, I think you would have found the same amount of imitation with the all over prints and the like those big bold graphic prints that were big in like 2006 or whatever. Like, you know, those things all proliferated and went to other places as well. It just so happens that now we have Instagram, Tumblr, and Twitter in such a bigger, more dominant place that you can't help but notice it.
Yeah.
And it's like, yo, like, not only are you like promoting and like creating essentially like bullshit, but like you're throwing it in our face every day because that's what you're expected to do on Instagram. So it's, I just think it's like doubled, and it's almost sad that you like can't look away, and you're constantly being reminded of it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, it's an interesting place that it's all arrived at, but I think it's due for a change pretty soon. Weather the storm.
What is the internet to you now, man? Like, you know, it's like, is it the same thing as? Are you still using it for what you intended on using it for, what you sort of started doing, or what is it now to you?
I mean, it's 100% my livelihood. Like, I wouldn't be living the life I'm living without it. So for all the shit that's I just talked about Instagram, like, you know, it pays the bills at the end. Quite frankly, at the end of the day.
And when you say it pays the bills, explain a little bit more. I know what you mean, but I just want people to understand.
Well, I mean, there's just, you know, any time you have a popular medium that's being used to convey a message, whether it's on a personal level or a brand level, like, there's a lot of money to be made in helping people tell those stories and those messages. And if you're working for brands, in our case, you know, we work closely with Nike Sportswear, like, you work to tell those stories, right? And if Instagram happens to be the medium on which you're telling that story in 2014, you know, that's where you're telling the story. It's no different than telling it on a magazine ad in the 60s or 70s. Like, it's just, this is our magazine ad right now.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think internet it's lessened. I think there was a time when I was like super excited about everything, like really genuinely stoked to find new sites, to find new kids doing new things, and to just spend time on the computer because I felt like there were so many things there. And then and probably because of my own devices, like, oversaturated it and just like did too much on it, and then pulled back to now where it's like, the days that I spend on the computer and actually online are days that are like work days, where it's like, okay, I'm not going to leave the house. I'm going to wake up at 7 a.m., be on the computer all day, maybe stop for dinner, and then and that's going to be it. And the actual days where I'm excited about creating things usually have absolutely nothing to do with the internet these days, except for the fact that whatever content we're creating is going to live there. But it's, you know, I mean, it's really about the creation and the production more so than like the internet side of it.
Yeah, man. I feel you, man. I mean, I think that I'm the same way. It was like everything that I do and have done, I really never had any sort of mainstream support from any type of, like, you know, I'm just now getting into that with my next film. It's just like, but it took, I've been doing this stuff on the internet for 10 years, man. Whether it's an interview, whether it's like, you know, all of these films that I do, and whether it's having a party, and the only way that I promote it and get people there is from the internet. And it's like, you know, now what I'm trying to do, man, is create experience, which is why I love doing this party so much. I'm trying to create experiences like from the internet, but the experience exists off the internet. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like where my mind is at now with, you know, like even with like, you know, the future in terms of like having a space, you know what I mean? That like, I don't even know what it's going to be, whether it's going to be like a bar, whether it's going to be a creative lounge, whether it's going to be whatever, but like something that is like a physical space where, you know what I mean? Yeah, like that's where my mind is at now, man, because it's like, I think that the future of the internet and where it's going in terms of like meshing all these worlds together in the creative space is just like, it's not just going to be about like displaying your work or like having work on the internet. It's really going to be about creating like offline experience. And that's the only way I think essentially that like that you blend like art and commerce, you know what I mean? Because you can sell as much stuff as you want on the internet and shit, and like especially when you're talking about media, but when it comes to other things, it's like everything is like an on internet experience to an off internet experience. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you look at something like Instagram, right? And what is the purpose of Instagram? I mean, purely when it started was to take pictures of things that were happening in the real world, experiences, like you said, to share them with other people. And at some point, it turned a corner, and the sharing of that event or experience became more important than the experience itself, right? So it wasn't even about like the bowl of ramen that you ate at lunch and how good it was and like, yo, this fire ramen, I just got it down the street. It's like, it's more important about how many like likes you got on it and how many comments and the reaction that was generated. So I think that's where a lot of people got frustrated. And I think you do see like some sort of pushback where you see like just more of a focus and more of like a push and or just a fascination with things that are very like not internet. So when we talk about the camping shit, when kids come up to me, oh man, you be camping, son, like you be out there. And I'm like I guess, dude, like you know what I mean, like that's just right. Like we just go on, we go on trips when we go on trips. Like I guess, like I don't like I work way more than I camp, honestly. You know what I mean? But like if that's what you're attached to, it's fascinating to see that like how amazed people are with that, because I just think it's something that's so very different. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, what do you think about that, man? Because that right there, what you just explained, is like the bane of my existence, man. When people, and I mean, but I get it though. I get why people would say like, it's like, for instance, you could be doing horribly, right? But somebody is like, man, you're doing it. You know what I mean? Like I see you out here, like but like. Maybe everything is not what it seems on, like, your life is not just when you go to like an Instagram page and like scroll through somebody's pictures. There's so much more to their life than that. Sure. So I think as people, we have to understand that and separate like, the smoke and mirrors or the just like the digital presence from like the actual person. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think it's hilarious when you meet someone in real life and they're just a sad, like, 2% milk representation of the life they lead on the internet. Yeah. And it's like, oh, you're a lame? Like, you know what I mean? Like, damn, dude, like, after all that, like, you can't even back all that up. Like, so it's like, to me, like your tweets and like your Instagram should be like that should authentic. It should be absolutely authentic, but it should be like that should be like the least interesting thing about you. You know what I mean? Like it's like like, oh, you got a good Instagram account, like cool, like you know what I mean? Like that's awesome. Like you arrange the stuff in your apartment well, but like I hope that when I go to your apartment, like there's more to you and even like whatever's going on with your life than just that fact. You know what I mean? Like so I agree, man. There's a lot of like. And I would say I'm guilty. Like I participate in it to some extent. Like
likewise.
You architect and engineer the things that people see about your life. Like for me, I always have an out. I have an excuse because it's like, yo, this is how I make a living. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm not working a day job and then like posting all this stuff fronting like this is my life. Like you know what I mean? Like this is what I do, and this perception of me is quite frankly like how I get the work I get, and my Instagram is like. For a lot of people, I would say, especially probably people you've featured on this podcast, like your Instagram, your Twitter profile, these things are your portfolios in many ways, right? Like this is how people are finding you and hiring you. But there's nothing worse than a over focus on the internet. And on your online persona. But
when it's like people, you can't even have a conversation with people because it's like it's got like something is tweeted or it's like I just think it should enhance. Life, not take away from the real life.
Agreed. You know what I mean? I mean, and the most interesting people I know and the people who have even the most exciting profiles or like online content are the people who are doing way more interesting things offline, right? It just so happens that they're sharing the things online. You know what I mean? It would be interesting if it was in a book. It would be interesting if it was a TV show. It would be interesting if it was your friend sitting next to you on the bench. Like, yo, I heard about this kid. Look what he's doing. You know what I mean? Like, if Instagram is the thing that's making what you're doing interesting, it's like, quite frankly, it's probably not that interesting. Like, I don't. If the platform is what's needed to convey it, it's that's where it starts crumbling a little bit.
I think that is something that people should definitely take note of. Like, I'm gonna like really remember that. Like, would this be good off Instagram? Would this be good?
Right.
Yeah. Nice, man. So what are some? Well, first of all, we didn't even.
We just dove right in. You got me going on the.
Well, I guess I was gonna say, yeah. What are some things that you are like feeling right now? Mm-hmm. Like, you know, what is sparking your interest right now?
That's a good question. I'm stoked on a bunch of stuff. Let me try and narrow it down into things that are digestible. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to build a tree house with my buddy Foster, up like north of Portland, mm-hmm. in a couple months.
Just like at his house or what?
Yeah, he has some land up there in like Washington State. Okay. And trying to do some like Swiss Family Robinson-esque like madness nice. Up in the top of a tree. And that's like the best thing I've heard in a while. That's like, can't get much better than that. I have an ongoing, well-documented fascination with like all things involving boats and living on water. So mm-hmm. like at some point I'm trying to live in a boat.
Okay. For like an extended period?
Yeah, it would be fire, super fire. So like any movie, like everyone's seen like Castaway, like I love Castaway, like just because the premise of it, like starting on the sea and then ending up on an island. Like when I was little, I used to just want to go on a cruise with my family and like the boat would crash, but everyone would be safe and everyone else on the cruise would get saved, but my family would be on a deserted island and then we just got to like kick it and live in a hut in a deserted island. Like it just sounds like the most fire, like simple life.
Have you seen Captain Phillips?
No, I did not.
Oh man, you gotta watch that.
Yeah,
man.
There's I think Robert Redford just did the other one where he's on his yacht sinks and he's alone. On this movie came out last year. Good film too. You should see it. Okay. Yeah.
What is? You don't remember the name?
Nah, I don't. I'll think of it by the end.
Okay.
That's another good one. But I see all those movies. I miss Captain Phillips. I'll probably watch that tonight. Anything on the water is fun.
Yeah.
Travel. I'm about to whenever possible. I just try to dip and take a break. That's the biggest thing. We're trying to turn some of those travels into a bigger, more cohesive thought with Madbury Club. Okay. In a bigger series. Man, that's like the tip of the iceberg for stuff I'm stoked on. And then in terms of like things people care about that I'm stoked on, lines. Let's see who's doing good stuff. There's a brand called Access Folk Technology that this guy Kyle Ahmet runs. Okay. Really, really good. Outdoor sort of inspired stuff, but like really technical and really well designed, but with like a super high degree of funk. That's sort of like a 90s Patagonia vibe, like really nice. My friend Benji up in Portland does a brand called Polar Stuff, Polar Camping Stuff, which is really rad, like cheap, just like smart, really well executed.
Okay. I need to write all these down.
I'll lace you.
Yeah.
There's tons. I could go on and on. Yeah. Those are just some of the... And then,
so much dope stuff coming out of Portland, though, in general.
Portland exported their culture, man. It's Portland's moment right now.
Yeah, this is it.
Portland's running the world right now, man. You go there, it's the dreariest, rainiest place ever, but they're crushing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, beyond that, I'm always stoked on people doing, like, good stuff in film. I'm stoked to see you doing your documentary stuff. My buddy Luke's doing really cool stuff as well. But really anyone who's like pushing film stuff. I'm super stoked on telling 15-second stories on Instagram right now.
Yeah, I love the stuff you're posting.
Yeah, man. It's just fun. It's such a
stuff
like
with,
locked in.
I saw the stuff with Vinny and
Tone. Yeah.
Putting the cameras together.
Yeah, dude, we shot a bunch of those last week when we were all together in New York. Like, it's fun to be confined to 15 seconds and try to tell like a super quick story.
I'm always like, it kills me whenever I try to make Instagram stuff. I'm like, oh my, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, you're especially you're very familiar with a longer format. So like, 15 seconds is crazy. I'm sure I'll be bored of it in like 2 months, but like for now, like it's exciting. Man, and that's the size of it. The things go on and on. My interests change and wane and grow every single day, every hour. So let's try to stay focused.
Tell me a little bit more about Madbury Club and like what it has grown into, because you guys started by doing like editorial stuff. Yeah. You know what I mean? And you writing a lot of your thoughts and posts. Yeah. And now it has sort of, I know you might not want to call it an agency, but in terms of the work that you do and produce, it sort of seems like it's a brand agency.
Yeah, so Madbury Club is like a bunch of like-minded, like slightly delinquent kids who are actively refusing to admit they have jobs. Yeah. And who are often mistaken for agency, and we do agency work.
Okay.
So I mean, we've done very like corporate agency work, and then we've done some more ethereal, like creative side stuff as well, which is where we're trying to keep it. But yeah, I mean, we definitely, I mean, that's our field, like quite frankly. But yeah, you're right. It started in a whole different place. When Madbury Club started, I had no idea what agency was.
Yeah.
I was a sophomore in college, and I was just for freshman, sophomore maybe, and I was just bored, and I was especially bored with how people were doing content online. I was only like, this is when back we were talking about being like excited about the internet, right? Yeah, and I was just excited on very few things. Like I remember reading DC to BC and being stoked on like how Modi was writing because it was so personal and it was relatable. And I remember a few other sites, but there was nothing really like, there was nothing that I was like reading and I was like, oh man, this is killer. Like Inquiring Mind was one out of Canada that was really good.
Yeah.
Their content used to be great, but it was just like super inconsistent in terms of like when it came and how relatable it was, I felt. So that's
actually my friend's cousin, I believe.
Those guys are dope, man. They always killed it. And there's always great Japanese sites that were out there, like, and Being Honey is kind of like the OG of all of it, and Honey was another one. But like, in terms of stateside and like our little corner of the world, there was no one really pushing it, I didn't think. Mm-hmm. So Madbury Club was going to be the answer to that. Had all these lofty aspirations of like how we were going to be the next this and the next this. And we just launched with a bunch of spreads and like a more of an editorial slant to what we were doing. People were stoked, got like a lot of buzz and sort of attention for what we were doing. And then eventually just got burned out on the writing.
I was like, how is this dude keeping this up? Good God. It's like books.
Oh, it was crazy, dude. We had a bunch. We had like 6 kids contributing, a bunch of college kids who were all writing, a bunch of kids who were like genuinely stoked to write. You know what I mean? And none of them, maybe 1 or 2 of them wanted to be a writer, right? Who was very like explicit. Like shout out Matthew Trammell.
Sure.
He's at Epiphany now, but like that kid's a writer. You know what I mean? Like he was meant to be a writer. So like. He was stoked on it, but all the rest of us, even myself, and I was writing a ton. It was like, I don't really want to be a writer. Like, it's nice that people appreciate it and people are stoked on it, but not really like my thing. I don't really want to be on the computer. Mm-hmm. So it took us. But you start doing the page views, you start getting the retweets. People are like, you got editors of magazines like tweeting you and writing you, coming to my office and all this stuff. Like. I was looking back the other day. We were on the Source's like digital 30 power list, right? Yeah, and it's like, yo, like looking back on that now, it's so funny because it's so like opposite of really like what we stand for, kind of. Yeah. But like, man, we were just in the thick of it, and we got caught in it. Quite frankly, like we got caught in it when like Watch the Throne came out. Like, yo, I don't know if I've ever been so passionate about like making sure I was like killing everyone else. Like, yo, we're gonna have the best Watch the Throne content. Like, on the internet, right? And we did. Like, frankly, I'll put it up against anyone, like XXL, Complex, anyone. Like, no one's content that we did leading up to it and after it was really touching what we did. Mm-hmm. But yo, I could not have cared less about that album. Like, I don't even like Jay-Z. Like, I couldn't have cared. We were just doing it to do it because like we knew it was going to get a response.
Yeah. Wow.
So like at that was like when it got to that point, that was when it was like going downhill, and I was
so how does it then turn from a editorial sort of thing? And I mean, I guess this sort of happens with this kind of happened with like LTD and other brand, even Frank. You know what I mean? This stuff happens with, but like, how did it happen exactly for you guys to be putting out editorial content?
Yeah,
and that lead to brands asking you to do this for us.
I mean, I think in general, if you ever tell a good story or do something well online, that there will be someone out there who will look at what you did and say, hey, can you help me do this?
Yes.
Do what you did for myself. Which is always a funny situation because, like, 9 times out of 10, like, it happened because you did it for yourself.
Yeah,
like, once you change it and do it for someone else, it doesn't really apply.
Yep.
Which is why I think a lot of people struggle when they try to make that leap. For Madbury, though, we had the writing, right, and the like super music stuff, but we always had that editorial component as well. Like even for Durkle, I would like they'd send us jackets and we go take pictures of them. We get free shoes from Timberland and Nike and whoever, and we go take pictures of it. Ronnie Fag sent us collaborations before he was shutting down blocks, and like we go take pictures of it. And so like it's amazing to see now, but we were like 17 years old taking pictures of sneakers, and now it's fast forward 3-4 years, whatever it is now, and it's like we're essentially doing the same thing on like a way bigger scale. But it is really like still like can you take like we're just really good at taking pictures of sneakers.
So here's but okay, does it ever become to a point of, I guess, like, do you ever feel like, and I hate to use this word because I mean it doesn't matter if my integrity is there, like I'm gonna take a check, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, so I hate to use the word like selling out. But like, does it ever? Is it like, well, damn, I wish I could go back to doing this for, like just on my own terms, you know what I mean? Like rather than having a contract involved and having like certain stipulations that you have to abide by. Because I'm sure there's instances where you're trying to do something creatively, but the brand doesn't rock with it.
It's my life every day. That's like two-sided story on that one, because on one level, it was always my dream to direct a commercial for Nike. Like, can you know what I mean? Like, can you do that? And it's like to produce content for Nike, really to work for Nike in some capacity since I was young, right? And so like to be 24 years old and to be doing that and producing that stuff and to be like making some of the biggest stuff they've ever done on social media, like ever, with my friends is like, that's a dream come true. And like whatever baggage comes along with it and whatever, the back and forth creative struggle that's associated with that comes is like I can deal with it, because like for now anyway, like we'll see. Ask me again in a year, it might be a whole different story. But like I'm stoked to be doing it now, and I think it's just a super learning curve that I've really been sort of like diving back into for the past year of like, okay, now how do you like balance the client work and the money side and the success side with we need to continue pushing over here on what really made us special and what got us to this place, right? So what always happens is you do great work, you do something original and unique, and then you get acclaim for it, and brands come to you for it, and then you essentially stop doing all the things that got you acclaim because you got so much work, right? And Dave Gensler, this guy from Brooklyn, designer from Brooklyn, has done a bunch of stuff. He said, he's like, dude, what's going to happen? He's like, if all you guys go work for Nike, he's like, there's never going to be another Nike. Like someone's going to have to like step to the side and be like, nah, man, I'm going to do my own thing. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
right? So I think that always sort of like haunts me and hangs around in the back of my mind. But it's really like a time management thing to try to balance and remind yourself that you're doing just as much things for yourself as you are for the business side. For sure.
I think it's time management, like you said, man. But it's like one thing that's a reality is like, obviously paying the bills and keeping the lights on and all that stuff. And it's like, personally, me, what I try to do is set myself up in a position where, okay, well, that's handled, but now it's like, what are you doing? What are your creative outlets? And I mean, this podcast is literally one of them. It's that's like, beautiful. I love doing this thing. Right. Man. I love hearing these.
You gotta have those things. You gotta have a little freedom.
It's like that is what is gonna keep you sane throughout this all as a creative person, man, because when you're just like doing work that's like for hire all the time, and it's like you don't have the time to express your own stuff, man. You can get to a dark place.
Agreed. And you know what? In addition, I agree with that 100%. But what I also have come to learn, and I think what's worth striving for, is like if you can find ways to work with other people that are on your terms, and then you're producing work that you're like genuinely stoked on. So like to me, there's nothing better than when I see like comments on a video that we did for another brand or just anything we produced for someone else, and they're like, oh no, I knew this was Madbury. I knew off top this was Madbury, because it's like, okay, you know what I mean? Like, cool, we just executed a vision for someone else, but it's so clear that this is our work. You know what I mean? Like, no one's getting it twisted, and if we put it out and we're stoked on it at the end of the day, like, that's great. I can live with that. Yeah. But I agree, man. There's times when you just gotta like, I gotta like go outside and build a bench or like, and just try to like draw something that's not for a client. You know, it's tough. Like there's not many days or hours I find myself doing that stuff anymore.
I feel
but
you,
it's a struggle for sure.
What I remember I was reading or watching an interview from you, and you had said something like, work with people that you would work with if there was no money involved.
Yeah.
Do you think that's sort of like how you built your team?
Yeah. I mean, so I always say like Madbury is like the most platinum prime example of like how not to build a company. Like every rule like that you're supposed to follow was broken. Like everything they say about not working with friends and like if you are gonna work with friends, like this is how you should approach it. Like just ignore blindly like all those rules. You know what I mean? So like. Yeah, I agree. The people I work with, I wouldn't trade them for anything else. They're all literally like my best friends, in many ways. And like
shout out to Vinny and Ellen.
Vinny,
of the crew that I know, man.
Brian, Tone, Vinny, you know what I mean, Marcus, Peter, all of them, Hyun, like the whole squad. But like, it's like none of our relationships, except for maybe the exception of Peter, who's the most recent person to join Madbury, like none of these people worked with us because they were trying to work in an agency setting, or because they were trying to do creative work, or they're trying to work for Nike, or they're trying to do this or this. Like all these people came and worked and like got down on this idea long before it was anything. So it's like, to me, there's no better situation you could be in to work in a situation like that with your best friends. Like they say you don't want to work with your friends, but to me it's like, why would you want to work with anyone else but your friends? You know what I mean? If I'm gonna be stressed out and fucking bugging out over something, I want to be doing it with like someone who I know is actually like has my back, right? And who's like riding for the same goals and aspirations, as opposed to like, oh man, like I'm gonna come into work and like get stressed out with like a whole team of people who like may or may not, you know what I mean? Like everyone just collecting the check and like clocking out. Like that's not a situation I ever wanted to be in.
Gotcha.
So it works, you know what I mean? It's a struggle. Like work with your friends, you fight with your friends, you do the whole thing. But, it's lovely.
Man, what was I was gonna say? Yes. So in terms of like the team, right? How do you bring on? Because you said you just brought a new guy in.
Yeah.
How do you bring on board a new member? Because that's something that it's like right now, man. I'm getting to the point where I've never had an intern ever. I've never wanted one.
Yeah.
Never. Because I've interned and I've been in situations where it's like, oh, this is bullshit. I'm not getting any type of value from this. I'm not. And at the end of the day, it's like, I just want to. If somebody is interning with me, I really want them to be like learning something and getting at the maximum value, using me as much as I need to use them for stuff. So I've never had one up until this point, but now it's getting to the point where like
need it.
I kind of need. It's like I could talk all that whoop-de-woo all I want, but like I kind of need one. So I'm just like curious to know, how do you look for, I guess, people to bring on to the team?
I mean, it's an interesting thing in general, because once you start talking about scaling and growing, like, I mean, like honestly, that's when things start to get scary. That's when you're like, okay, this is not really like. At one point, maybe this is this cool little thing I did with my friends out of our like apartment in New York, and we got paid some cool money to do it. And like now, you're talking about a thing where people like are making a living and being supported off this thing, where you're holding like people's futures are being decided based on the work you do. So first thing first is like involving someone in that is a big deal. You know what I mean? And I don't approach it lightly. So for Madbury, it's very unique. We've had people asking to intern and to join and to do work for as long as there's been a site, right, from the jump. And honestly, like never have we ever brought on anyone. The one exception might have been like Matthew Trammell, because like he left like such a like fire comment on some post that we were like, yo, who's this kid? And when we like went and read his site, we were like, oh no, let's have him right. So like we brought him on it, and like it grew, but. Peter, the only people I find myself working with and then elevating them beyond that and bringing them on into even like a full-time position is people who I've worked with for more than a year, and 9 times out of 10 that person has proven to me over and over again that they would work for no money. They've done work for free. Like those people who have like sweat and bled and like worked for you all hours of the night, not slept for nothing, like because they believed in whatever you're doing. Like so, like Peter was working at Wyden and Kennedy. You know what I mean? Like one of the best agencies in the world, one of the biggest and baddest, right? and this guy's like slaving away on MadburyClub.com redesigns, and it's like, who is this guy to be doing this? He has no reason. He doesn't owe me anything to be working on these things. So when you have people like that, and there's a few other people who are like around in our immediate circle for myself and my situation, who have already like proven that they've put in that work and are kind of like willing and believe in the dream, I think it makes it very easy to take that next step.
Yeah.
And that sort of takes the decision out of my hands, because like honestly, at that point, like everyone already assumes you're Madbury. Everyone's already like, oh, like he's down Madbury, right? And like that's how people end up being a part of what we have.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I mean, then what would you suggest? I guess to like let's flip it and say somebody is, trying to get a position. What do you suggest to that person? Because I mean, I think I could do one podcast solely on like what not to do.
Right.
I could literally do an hour on this is
no
this
traditional
is not
resume.
how you get a job, man.
Yeah.
Like, or this is not how you get me to like listen to something or watch something or
no
like,
tweet promo. What would I suggest people do? That's a good question. So to me, I mean, I've had a bunch of kids write emails, right? I've had hundreds of kids write emails, probably thousands of kids tweet like, yo, how can I get down? I want to do what you do. I've had hundreds of kids walk up to me at events on the street and be like, yo, I follow you guys on Instagram. Like, what you do is amazing. That's what I want to do. And then they just say like, how do you do it? Right? Like, how do you do it? And I'm like, that's just such an interesting question to me, because Madbury is fairly obtuse. Like, we don't really explain everything we do. Even the people who know us, they're like, okay, like, what do you really do?
Yeah,
but like to me, it's like, if you really stopped and look at it, it's clear. Like, all the pieces are there for you to put together. Like when I went and made T-shirts, you know what I mean? I looked at what Bobby Hundreds was doing. I looked at what Johnny Cupcakes is doing. I took notes on everything. I went and read everything I could about Sean Stussy. So like, to me, if you're going to try to get involved in something, like, you don't do it lukewarm. You don't put your toe in first to see how warm the pool is. Like, you just jump in, like double front flip and get involved. So that's my thing. Like, I'm very, very impressed when someone comes to me and knows like what's going on. Like, if you want to talk to me about Madbury, like if you're saying like, oh, I want to do what you do, like this could even sound like I'm conceited, but like, you should know everything we do if you really want to do what we do, right? Because like, if I wanted to do what someone did, if I wanted to be Jabari and I wanted to make films and do podcasts, I guarantee you I would have at least Googled everything. I would have read every interview you've ever done. You know what I mean? Before I walked in the room to say like, oh, I want to do what you do.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, that's basic. You can do it on your phone in the elevator before you get there. Like, you know what I mean? So like, that's my thing. Like, you got, like, that kills me when it's like, oh, what do you want to do? And it's like, oh, well, like, what do you know what I mean? Like, you ask a basic question and there's no response. Like, they haven't even really, like, engaged yet. They've just seen the idea of something I'd like to be on Instagram on a mountain and, like, getting free Nikes and, like, go on a trip. Like, that seems cool, but, like, did you, like, really look into what went into that? So that, to me, is, like, there's got to be, like, an amount of, like, research and ground and just, like, work that went into that before anything. And then it's like, for me, for Madbury specifically, it's about doing something differently. Like, people used to ask us on Tumblr, yo, how do I get down? And the responses would always be crazy. It would be like, yo, go to Alaska, like, find a narwhal, like sample the narwhal while you saw his horn off, and then like make a mixtape from that and then mail it to us. Then we're gonna listen to it. If it's fire, we'll read your resume. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, so that, like, there's been a couple kids over the years who've like hit us back with like similar shit like that, and like this what like someone sent us like a resume that was made on Microsoft Paint and shit was hilarious. Like, it was mad funny, and it's like, yo, like, even if like I don't have a position for you, or like it doesn't even make sense for me to hire you. Like, quite frankly, I only hire people who are my friends who've been around me. So if you're not in my circle, like, the chances are very low. So like, I will never forget that email though. Yeah. And when I see your name, I guarantee I remember your name. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that means for some that stands for something. So it's about something to be noticed and putting some thought into it.
Like you said, man, I think definitely it's the people have to understand that it's more than just like the awe, like the awe of just wanting to do something, the allure. You know what I mean? The allure of, you know, it's like with that Jay-Z song, the allure of, you know what I mean? It's like that's there's so much more than just the allure.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? There's so much groundwork. There's so much shit that you have to do, man. And it's you know, it's like people look at me and they'll be like, man, how did you start? Or like, how did you do that documentary on Macklemore? And it's like, yo, I've been interviewing people since I was 18 years old.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah,
that's just what it is. You know what I mean? I was doing stuff running around with a handy cam.
It's like, yo, you go on YouTube, you can see the first shitty videos I made. You can see the better ones. You can see the middle ones, and then you can see how it got. Like, the blueprint is there. I agree.
But nobody. It's like people don't even want to. They don't even want to click a few pages back.
Right.
It's like, man.
I mean, I think that's probably more than anything just a symptom of the similar like internet things we're talking about now. I mean, the success is so instant, the gratification is so instant that like. Yeah, like why would I do the homework? You know what I mean? Like, just tell me right now. Like, I just want to do the Google search and know instantly. I don't want to I don't want to do the years. You know, I don't want to put in the years. Yeah. No, I agree. It's a very, very interesting thing to have known firsthand, to know people like you and know similar people in our circle, and to see the work they've done, and then to see where they're at now. It's exciting to see where everyone's at now.
It's very exciting. Yeah, man, definitely.
And I can imagine being a young kid and looking up at it and like being stoked on it, but I just think people are missing a lot of like the key steps in between of like, okay, like if I said like right now, if I said like, yo, you gotta put in your work, like that'd be the most old head thing I've ever said in my life. But like, yo, like quite frankly, like at some point you're gonna have to sweat, like you're gonna have to not sleep, like, you know what I mean? Like when are you gonna do it?
You know, a kid asked me the other day. He sent me an email and he was like, man, I want to do stuff like you, but I'm wondering about like steady income. And he was like, I will never forget this email. He was just like, you know, how do you, keep steady income and this, that, and the third. He was like, I have this idea, but I don't want to really leave my job, and but I need the time to. And I was like, bro, steady income. Yeah. Like what? Like, huh? What are you talking? Like, get that out of your mind. Do you know what I mean? Completely. Just erase that from your thought process, and just start doing what it is you need to do. I mean, definitely, like, if you can get a job where you can have time to do what you need to do, or that job can enhance another part of your life, shoot for that for sure. Right. But if you're worried about like how are you going to maintain the lifestyle that you're used to with your like nicely paying job now, but you're really dying to do something creative, and you're like, that job is killing you, and your real talents are over here. It's like you just gotta throw away the concept of steady income or being comfortable. Yeah,
we did a talk in Philly at this shop called P's and Q's. Shout out to Key and those guys, and it is like. I remember this guy asked us at the end. He's like, "Wow!" We gave our little presentation. We showed all the work we've done, the trips we've been on, all the things Madbury's done. And he's like, "This is all awesome and stuff and cool." He's like, "But how do you guys make money?" He's like, "I want to go on trips. I want to do this. Like, there are all these things. Like, like where's the reality in all this? Like, we can't just step out and do this." And I'm like, like quite frankly, like you create the path you want to walk on, right? So like. It's like, dude, we weren't getting paid. We weren't making a living off this in the beginning. Like, we made a decision that this was going to be the thing we did. And everyone got in the boat and started paddling. And now you find yourself where you're at. And like, who knows, in 2 years, we might be looking around like, shit, man, should have finished that degree at Rutgers. Like, like, yo, you took a stab at it. You took the jump and you went. And like, I mean, like, you want to be the boring person with a nice Instagram profile, or you want to be like the guy who jumped off the ledge and like, went after it and did it for 4 years. You know what I mean? Like, I would just always rather be... I don't want to be the person, like, sitting there listening to other people's stories. Like,
man, you want to have your own.
Yeah. So I think that's like, if you really don't have that, I don't know if you can teach that. That's a tough one.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to teach, man. Yeah. Wow. Well, on that note, man, let these folks know. First of all, this was incredible, man. And
thank you, man. Let me rant, give me a pulpit.
Yeah, man. I gotta get you on again for sure. No, you're more than welcome, man. Whenever you want to do another one. But yeah, let people know where they can follow you and follow Madbury Club, and just what you're working on, and everything.
Where you follow us in the real world, no Instagram. We're just everything's just at Madbury Club. It's complete nonsense and ridiculous things that you'll find on all those extensions that will probably explain nothing of what we do, which is wonderful.
But it's very fun to look at.
Yes, but it's nice and pretty to look at. And then my personal stuff is Phillip Annand, my full name. Yeah, man, and get involved. Watch out for Madbury 2088, the film coming never, and yeah, all kinds of good things, man. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
For sure, man. For sure, brother.
Absolutely.
All right, when you guys, let's see what's coming up. Colors, my next party, Colors LA, Colors NYC. Actually.
In there.
Yeah. That joint is coming up. On April 25th, I believe.
And don't donate $1. Don't be cheap. If you listen to this joint, pay up. Yeah. $15 minimum. Come on, you be valeting your cars in LA. Lace this man, hold this man down.
Appreciate all the support. You guys know, go to patreon.com. Like I said, you're getting value from people like Phil. Man, I mean, look at all this knowledge this man just dropped. All right, I'm trying to bring it more. I'm trying to get more people, not just him, so many more people. And there's so many more people outside of Los Angeles, all right? So that's what the money goes to, essentially, just allowing us to keep it going. And allowing me to travel with it. So thank you guys for those that are supporting, and man, I really appreciate it. Leave a comment. You guys know, iTunes Store, Words with Friends, SoundCloud.com/Jabari. Every Monday we do this, and we're not gonna stop. All right, so that's it for this one. That's it for this Monday's Words with Friends. All right, I'll holler at y'all later. Peace.